Gathered here at the B20 Summit with global leaders, business leaders and trailblazers in the business space, of course, all under one roof to expand on collaborations and dialogues around policy. And I am joined here at our makeshift studio by Abubekir Salim, who's the chair of the DEİK South Africa-Turkey Business Chamber. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, it's an important platform as leaders have all gathered here to really talk about moving to the next level, acceleration. When it comes to alignment, where do you see the greatest alignment between South Africa and Turkey's manufacturing capabilities as you come here looking, of course, for opportunities, collaboration?
That's quite correct. When we look at the global alliances, we see lots of shifts. We can see that from the attendees to G20 as well. So the old way of looking at business, working only with the selected partners, has gone. We think that we're living in a new era that everybody needs to look at what must I do? How do I expand my network? Who do I work with further? Because when we look at the old way of working, each country had historical alliances that they will rely on, whether from a trading point of view, whether from an investment point of view, whether from a growth strategy point of view. But as we see today, those alliances either is being shaken or actually destroyed. Yeah. So when we look at Turkey and South Africa, we see two very strong developing nations in their own rights. And their strengths actually complement each other. One is a very strong country when it comes to minerals, when it comes to energy, when it comes to finance, and when it comes to having a lead role in the African continent. But on the other hand, Turkey is a growing force in the area that Turkey is. Now its economy got to almost $1.3 trillion, which is a growing force in the region. So when we look at this picture, we say, why Turkey and South Africa cannot be considered each other new partners in the developing side? Yes, we know historically trade has been quite low. Investment in both sides hasn't been at the levels that the parties hope for, but we think current change, current dynamics creates a new opportunity for both of them to consider each other as strategically important. Then, as you correctly alluded, Turkey's strength in the manufacturing can be utilized in South Africa. In a manner where South Africa can be a real force when it comes to intra-Africa trade, and then go from there on.
South Africa is referred to as the gateway to Africa, which I would imagine would be something of interest when you look at all the opportunities. I mean, you speak about minerals being something that would be of importance in terms of collaboration and trade. As we look at South Africa and frame it in that manner and look at the gateway opportunity, how does that stand out for you as Turkey? I know that just recently a delegation of South Africans were in Turkey and discussions were held at a really high level. What is your take on that?
So if I can start with the visit, it shows actually how the direction that I was describing earlier has been acknowledged and accepted by both countries. Turkey hosting a deputy president of South Africa with 6 ministers and deputy ministers, with more than 20 business persons, shows that also South Africa is willing to develop the relationship further. From Turkey point of view, when we look at South Africa, we see a best infrastructure in the continent by far, well-established finance system, which one can utilize in South Africa as well as in the continent, depends on what the opportunity is looking at, well-set legal system, and a quality life that our employees can live with when they come from there. So for us, these are foundation. Then, of course, with the shift that we talked about, South Africa's mining strength becomes a critical issue. South Africa is, based on our analysis, moving, and the media reports, moving from an only coal-based economy to coal to other mix, meaning that it requires further transmission lines. Turkey has completed that move. Turkey was a lot of gas-based energy economy to now move to majority renewable energy economy, and we build huge amount of transmission lines, and we see this can be utilized in the continent. Turkey has transformed its ports and it become a hub for import and export. We see South Africa is going through the same route, and we believe that knowledge and that investment capabilities can be utilized here. As well as you correctly alluded, Turkey is a manufacturing hub for many ways, in many ways. And we see that South Africa is going in that direction, and we believe that can be well utilized in South Africa.
I'm glad you touched on the mining aspect. How do you think that with Turkey's increasing role in mining, how can that avoid reinforcing extractive dynamics and instead drive deeper local value addition and perhaps industrialization in South Africa?
So, in my opinion, you only do more industrialization when you create an environment where the competition increases. So if we have 20, 30 countries in South Africa investing and growing mines and so on and so forth, then you have more expertise coming from the different jurisdictions that it can be utilized. So we believe that if Turkey is having much more active role here, developing further drilling programs, further opening new mines, it is in the benefit of South Africa as well as benefit of Turkey. So we see there is a huge collaboration opportunities in different mining sectors, different minerals, where Turkey is looking at to expand in South Africa as well as in the continent. Together with that, we believe that there's a huge opportunity for Turkish companies and South African companies to partner and do work in the other African countries, because we see that South Africa sees Africa's future coincide with itself. Therefore, we think working with South African entities, creating collaboration and looking at third African countries to develop them, whether in the mining space, whether in the energy space, whether in the other spaces, is a huge opportunity for both countries.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Of course, that brings that discussion to an end. But of course, it does continue. My colleague Nompumelelo Siziba is standing by to give us a sense of Sanlam's take at the B20 Summit.